And we are now live for the umpteenth time. We're going on almost a year of doing the BBE Live. My name is Thomas Allen, and thanks so much for joining us. We're super excited because we have two special guests, as you will see. All of us are friends and colleagues, so this will be a good time with trivia and with all kinds of juicy gossip, I'm sure. So with that, welcome to BBE Live again.
Nottingham Mail, boys, Nottingham Mail, no liquor on earth is like Nottingham Mail. Nottingham Mail, boys, Nottingham Mail, no liquor on earth is like Nottingham Mail. Nottingham Mail, boys, Nottingham Mail, no liquor on earth is like Nottingham Mail. Nottingham Mail, boys, Nottingham Mail, no liquor on earth is like Nottingham Mail.
And so I already did my introduction. How about my besties in the world introducing themselves if you don't know them?
All right, I'm Leighann Ragusa, and I'm one of the directors of the BBE. I'm the resident flute player, and I'm streaming to you from Bloomington, Indiana.
Right, and I am Brandi Benson, another one of the BBE directors, resident violinist, streaming to you from Chicago, Illinois. And I am super excited to introduce you guys to composers Kurt Westerberg and Amos Gillespie. They are near and dear to the BBE's heart because they were two of the composers on the Chicago Stories project that we did. And then, of course, have both.
Oh, looks like we lost Brandi, but I'll take over until she comes back on.
You disappeared.
You could kind of sense it when she froze there for like 5 seconds. Anyway, as you were saying, we did Chicago Stories program. Here she is. Actually, Brandi, do you want to take back over?
I'm really excited still to have, Kurt Westerberg and Amos Gillespie joining us, who are, are composers for Chicago Stories, as well as have great credentials on their own outside of that. And so thank you guys for joining us today and being, our participants in our fun games that we have lined up for you guys.
Can't wait.
Excellent. All right. Well, with that, people who have been here know, or people who have joined us for the BBE Live before know how it kind of works, with a little tweaks in here and there to the show. But we always kick off with Leighann. Leighann, you want to take us through the rules of your game?
Yes. So how my game works, it's the Sorted Lives of Composers. So this week, special edition is they're all contemporary composers. So you may or may not have heard of them. And so I will read you a paragraph about a composer. And then you'll have 4 options on the screen of who the composer might be. And you'll have a little music to think, kind of like Jeopardy. And then you can come back and kind of debate whether you think you know the answer, who you can rule out, or whatever. All right. Are you guys ready to play?
Ready.
Okay. So this English composer is a singer of folk songs, a songwriter, and multi-instrumentalist whose solo work and collaborations offer a dark and subversive take on traditional music, as well as drawing on the folk traditions of England and Appalachia. Her music is influenced by Gothic literature, surrealism, myth, and magic. Her songs tell intricate tales of rootless souls, dark secrets, and earthly joys. She has released 7 solo albums, the first of which, Beautiful Twisted, was named by Rolling Stone in their critics' top albums of 2002. In 2012, she was asked to write a piece for the New Music for Old Instruments festival that took place all over the world in cities like Brussels, New York, Paris, Utrecht, Antwerp, and so on. The aim of the festival was to rid traditional instruments of their cliches, dragging ancient instruments out of the museum and giving them back to the people by presenting them in an entirely different and contemporary context, denouncing audience expectations. This composer wrote Steam-Powered Flight for Recorder Ensemble in 2012 for the New Music for Old Instruments Festival. Who was this composer? Was it Susan Alcorn, Sharon Krause, Jessie Montgomery, or Missy Mazzulli? But first, a little thinking music. Do our guests have any guesses?
during your thinking music, what I was thinking is that I'm only familiar with one of these composers.
Yeah, I think I've heard of two. But
Okay.
That's about par for the course. That's fine.
yeah, Jesse and Missy are names that I've recognized.
I
Okay.
recognize
I didn't know.
Sharon and Missy.
Oh, okay.
So who's going to guess first?
We'll let our guests guess first.
Well, of course, sure, yeah. So I think this is wrong, but I'll go for Missy. That's the name that I
Great.
recognize the most. But that doesn't mean I really don't have a memory of the type of music that she's active in. But we'll go for that.
All right.
I know Missy is more of an instrumental composer, but I don't know her that well. But I'm going to guess B, Sharon Krause.
Okay.
All right. Thomas, Brandi.
It's a complete stab in the dark. I was going to go with Sharon Krause, and that's only because of Alison Krause, and they're probably not related. But I'm going to go with it anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I'll cover some bases and go A, because I knew for sure it wasn't C, because Jessie is a violinist, and
You know that.
yeah, and she doesn't look like her. She's a person of color. So, she has really cool music, so definitely check that out. But so I'm going to go with A, Susan Alcorn, just for kicks.
Well, some of you were correct. The answer is B, Sharon Krause.
Way to go, Amos.
Good job.
That's a
I
very
didn't
folk
know-
last name right there.
That was great.
Yeah,
I didn't know any of these composers until I did this research, so don't feel bad if you haven't heard of them.
I
All
hope
right.
you're not
So,
watching. That's all.
all right. So the next one, this Juno award-winning composer with an international career is from Vancouver. Her music is inspired by birds, insomnia, nature, fear, other people's music and art, nocturnal wandering thoughts, lucid dreaming, death, and the liminal times and experiences before and after death. She was the first female composer in residence with the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra, as well as the inaugural composer in residence for Vancouver's Music on Main. She was commissioned to write a piece for traverso, Baroque violin, and viola da gamba, and harpsichord for the album Affect is No Crime, New Music for Old Instruments, which was released in 2019. This album explores the heterogeneity of reconnecting audiences with the music traditions from the past, while experimenting with extended techniques and electronics to create a fruitful dialogue with the perennial effects that Baroque instruments are capable of arousing. Her piece, Revenant, takes idiomatic fragments of Baroque repertoire, namely Bach's musical offering, and transforms them into a spacious landscape. The sound is still Baroque, but her imaginative treatment allows the instruments to resonate while creating a distinct compositional voice. Is this composer Joycelyn Morlock, Charlotte Bray, Jennifer Higdon, or Arlene Sierra? But first, some thinking music. Any guesses?
It's not. I don't think it's Jennifer Higdon, right?
That's for sure. It's not Jennifer.
Okay.
Okay.
It's definitely not Jennifer Higgins.
That's an
Okay.
easy one. And Arlene Sierra, I think I met, and I thought she is British, active in Wales.
Okay.
And does mostly orchestral stuff. So I think it's A or B, neither of whom I know.
Morlock is such a great last name.
Yeah.
Which name is more Canadian? I don't think I would be able to judge.
I was thinking that I want to go with Bray, and the reason why is because I know that there's a large Scottish. Now they're mostly up in Nova Scotia, right? But like there is a large Scottish contingency.
Not in Vancouver.
But at this point, it's more like people from Hong Kong or Vancouver and Korea. So like,
True.
Like Toronto, yeah.
Yeah, right. I think I'm going to go with B because I feel like I came across an article recently about, like PBO's commission with John Tavener and like some other, like they were talking about other early music new composers. And I feel like her name came up in this article. So
Okay.
I'm going to go with B. I've never
right.
seen a picture of her, so
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
So we have B.
I'm leaning towards B as well.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll just.
We're all wrong, aren't we?
We probably all are
So you
wrong.
guys are all going for B. But Thomas, don't you like the last name Morlock?
I do. I should probably like it to change, but I guess I have to stick with my answer. So
Yes, the answer is actually A, Joyce the Morlock.
bummer.
I was trying to give you subtle hints.
Yes.
Yes.
That's the last time I follow your clues, Kurt.
Well, it was,
Well,
it
it's
was
okay.
Thomas who first led us down that path.
I will delete all of that, so you will not. There will be no evidence.
All right. Well, so now we know about these composers. So the last composer, this Paris-based American composer, has a penchant for unusual sonorities and ancient instruments. He writes for classical instruments and the occasional radio or film project. His music for period and modern instruments takes the flexibility of much Baroque notation as a point of departure. With an international career, his music has been performed by groups like the Cadillac Moon Ensemble, Q&G Quartet New Generation, Dublin Sound Lab, New Music Raleigh, Ensemble Interface, and the period instrument ensemble Flying Forms, which is actually based in Minnesota. Additionally, he wrote the soundtrack for American Purgatory, an award-winning radio documentary on political asylum in the age of terrorism that was heard on many public radio stations across the United States. A CD of his music written for the Baroque ensemble Flying Forms was released in 2014, featuring 4 preludes for harpsichord and Baroque trio, Nouveau Mystérieux for amplified Baroque violin and harpsichord, and Prelude and Fantasy for harpsichord. And in addition to writing for this specific Baroque trio, he also has written for recorder quartets, and he also wrote a 40-minute work for solo Baroque double bass and Baroque ensemble, which, I didn't know this existed, and it's called Oedipus Tyrannus, which is divided into 9 movements that mirror the structure of Sophocles' play. And all of his music for old instruments is designed to radiate newness while respecting in unconventional but deep ways traditions. So, do you think this composer is Brett Dean, James Macmillan, Nissim Shaw, or David Lang? But first, some thinking music.
Leighann, did he also write an oratorio? Do you know?
I don't know about that, sorry.
Okay.
I didn't do extensive research.
Okay.
But we know it's not
But I-
David Lang.
You know it's not. I'm pretty sure it's not James McMillan.
Sorry?
I'm pretty sure it's not James McMillan either.
Oh, no?
Okay.
That's the other name that's familiar to me, but I can't place a style with James.
I think I've got a style in mind for James, and it does not fit the description.
Does not fit the description.
I could be
Is it-
wrong. Both David and James.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's not David.
Okay,
So this is an American living in Paris, but that
correct.
doesn't really take us anywhere. But
Brett Dean. I'm just going to throw it out there. Brett Dean.
it's kind of a cowboy name.
Maybe he's from Texas. I don't know.
Hey, if he's from Texas,
Yeah, gotta be
there we
good,
go.
right?
High people right there.
I love this photo too. This is a great. This is definitely 21st century like millennial Gen Z like LinkedIn profile / professional
Right,
website.
right.
Totally.
I'm-
Brett Dean.
Sounds
Brett
like
Dean.
interesting pieces.
Going with Brett Dean.
That's what I'm looking towards also.
So we have 2 Brett Dean.
Oh, just to be different, I'll be wrong and go for Nissim.
Brandi, do you have a?
I'm like trying to think really hard because I know some of the guys for flying forms, and I'm like, but there's just no way I can't like think back that far. I'm also just gonna go for Nassim because he seems cool. That's a cool name.
An unusual name, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you, Brandi, and Kurt are correct.
Ah.
Good job.
See, Amos, you went with me again. You should have not done that.
You know what?
Yeah.
That Dean would be a good crooner name, though.
Yeah.
I really I feel like he would fit in with like the next Rat Pack. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Brett is a real person, yes? These are all real names.
They are all real composers.
Real composers.
Contemporary composers.
Great.
Yes.
Way to go. Very interesting.
Yeah.
But Nassim, we need to talk about your photo because this is this is appropriate for Instagram and maybe not so much for other things. So, all right, cool.
Thomas approves if you're out there, Nassim. Thomas approves.
For Instagram, excellent.
I'm writing down the names of the composers that I get wrong so I can go back and
That's right.
myself with the music.
Yeah, especially this one. This is really interesting because we've learned all these people who are possibly, definitely some of them like who are writing for old instruments. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's amazing to me.
Yeah, and in particular, this one, he wrote a 40-minute piece for Baroque bass. Who does that?
Right.
Seriously.
So, I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All the Baroque bass players are like, finally.
I know.
All right. Well, this is the part where I get my revenge because I got one of those right, but I still failed. So this is where I get my revenge in my game, literally called Thomas's Revenge and Cat Doppelgängers. And so how this game works is when we go to the next page, you will see a list of 3, in this case, contemporary composers. We will listen to a short excerpt, about 30 seconds for each of them. We'll take, hopefully, an educated guess, but if you know it, that's okay too, at who it is, and at which point I will then reveal who the composer was, possibly who was performing it, what the piece is, and then just for fun, a loosely affiliated picture of a cat doppelganger that I found somewhat entertaining to throw in there that, again, loosely relates to what we're talking about. So, here's your first 3 composers, and Amos will probably recognize some of these as a saxophonist, as they all wrote saxophone pieces, and that is indeed what this is. It's a contemporary, not exactly written in the last 3 years, but definitely in the past 20-ish. And here is your first excerpt. All right, Amos, could you hear that? You look like you were struggling.
It was a little hard to hear. It's just saxophone and piano, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very pretty.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah. I have no idea, so,
Well, Bernard Haydn was a wonderful composer, but mostly a film composer. He wrote great music he wrote for the soundtrack of Moby Dick, among other things.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Nice.
With what's his name? Gregory Peck.
I love Gregory Peck.
Isn't he awesome?
Favorite. Yeah, he's my favorite actor of all time.
Oh, he's
literally.
And Bolcom. So I'm going to say Bolcom, who does have somehow though all saxophone music sounds French, all classical. But Bolcom does have a kind of a bluesy aspect to his writing, which he likes to incorporate. Although this also sounded impressionist at the same time. And Rodney Rogers, I just don't happen to know that particular Rogers. There are other Rogers that I know, but not that one. So I'm going to go for Bolcom.
Bolcom. Other thoughts, guesses?
I mean, I am in the same boat as Kurt. I could hear that being a William Bolcom piece.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a pretty short excerpt.
Yes.
I did not hear much of that bluesy American kind of sound.
At first it was there and then it disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not too familiar with Haydn.
He
But-
really only had that one sonata. So
And I'm trying to remember, I mean, there was a Haydn saxophone composer that I remember as being much more neoclassical sounding.
Oh, wait a minute. Yes. You know what? I'm wrong. This is not the film composer.
Yeah, that's why I was confused by
You're
what
wrong.
I'm
This is
saying.
the guy he taught in Indiana.
Yeah, so I
And he was
remember
kind
his,
of a but he was kind of a neo-Hindemith
yeah, exactly.
composer.
Exactly, which what we heard was not that.
No.
So
Right.
It's either Bolcom or Rogers. I don't know Rogers.
Yeah.
I'll guess C, so as not to be like Kurt.
great.
I'm going to guess B. Stick to my letters.
The film composer was Bernard Herrmann. So it just shows you how old I am.
Oh.
BH just means
Leighann, any thoughts?
I have no idea. So I'm going to go with Rodney Rogers because it's RR. I don't know.
Gotcha. Well, Leighann, you would be correct. It actually was Rodney Rogers. This piece is called "The Nature of the Swirling Wheel," played by Jeremy Koch or Coach. Actually, this is really you were so close though, because I really wanted to put on Lilith by William Bolcom, but I couldn't find an actual professional recording of it online that I could draw from. It was everybody on their recitals, and they were all really amazing. But I thought it would be really weird to put a picture of some random graduate student in their recital on this. So, but anyway, this is super cool. This I learned this one and the Lilith one when I was doing my undergrad back in 2004. I learned about it, but at that point it was only a manuscript, so I never got to play them, which was really disappointing. But anyway, so that's Jeremy Koch right there underneath holding a saxophone, and that is the only picture of Rodney Rogers I can find on the internet. This awful pixelated blurry photo, which of course then you can find plenty of cats doing too.
How old is Mr. Rogers, dude?
I actually don't know, but I think given the fact that he has not updated really anything online, and this picture was super small and had to be blown up, my assumption is at this point he's probably a bit older and kind of out of commission. But I'm not going to speak with any authority, and I can't wait for some troll to find this and come at me. So that'll be great.
American composer?
Yes. Yeah. So
Still sounds French though.
It kind of wanders. That's why there's not really a great 30 seconds that will be oh, this is Rodney Rogers, because again, I don't think a lot of people know a lot of his music. So I was just being a jerk. Sorry. and I will again be a jerk because since Kurt is on here, I'm going to test his knowledge of DePaul graduates who left the composition and also jazz department, some of them as well.
Yes.
Here you have maybe some names you may or may not recognize.
I recognize two of them.
Great. And the years that they graduated from DePaul. And here's 30 seconds from one of their albums that they released. Here you go. And this particular individual graduated with, if I recall correctly, a composition and arrangement degree from DePaul. So even though it's jazz, it's right up Kurt's alley in terms of the area. So
no,
let's hear it.
There's a jazz, and it's just a master's degree, I think, in composition for jazz. So, and then we don't know those people at all. But Mary Mazurek, I know, is a sound recording engineer and got a degree in that. She also was a very good theory student, but I've never heard of any of her compositions. She does work for FMT.
Yeah.
You always hear her name.
He's the only name I recognize.
Dana Hall is the chair of jazz studies at DePaul now. And is an amazing jazz drummer. He has several groups that do different styles. This sounds too conservative, though, for me. This is very tame for Dana. You're saying he wrote this piece or he just plays on it?
This person wrote the piece, and it's on their album, so they played on it as well.
Yeah, if it doesn't sound to me like one of Dana's recent pieces, that's for sure. A.J. Cluth, I don't know or remember. So there we are.
Back at the beginning. Excellent.
Yeah, we're back at the. I would say obviously it's not A. It's either B or C.
Okay.
I'm going to go with who I'm most familiar with, Dana Hall.
Okay, so Amos has got to be.
I'm gonna go C. Because I now that you've said that, from the little, I haven't interacted with Dana a lot, only seen him at meetings and stuff, and I've seen him play with, only a handful of times at DePaul. But
he has several. He has 2 or 3 different groups at least, and some of them are really avant-garde, very interesting.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
This just sounded, I would say Dana, but it just sounded so conservative. So typical jazz. So if I'm wrong, please don't tell Dana.
Awesome. Leighann, any thoughts?
I have absolutely no idea, except I know it's not Mary. So I'm going to go with AJ because my husband's name is AJ.
Okay, great. So we have 2 AJs. We have 2 AJs. Amos is on the Dana train. And Kurt, do you want to throw in?
Oh, yikes. I'll still go with Dana just for the hell of it.
Well, guess what? Y'all are right. It's Dana.
Yay, my man!
Hey.
And I don't actually know his music very much. I was introduced to him when I was looking up who were DePaul alumni who had some good recognition. And you're saying he's very avant-garde. So, but this is
an early album, then.
I can probably find out pretty quickly, but this is Into the Light, Dana. What year was this? Looks like it was 2009.
Wow. Yeah, well, at least it's not recent.
So he must have gone crazy the last few years.
He wrote some very provocative pieces. Some of them were commissioned. One that dealt with the 9 African Americans who were shot and killed in, where was that? At a church in North Carolina.
Yeah. Gosh, I forget who the shooter was too. But yeah, I know what you're talking about.
A young, almost a teenager.
Yeah.
Who joined the Bible group and then shot them all.
Yeah.
And I think that piece was performed at Symphony Center.
Well, he's done a lot. He's been very prolific in terms of his output and obviously his influence. And as you pointed out, he is a drummer, of course. And so I had to find a nice picture of a good kitty cat drumming. So this was one of my favorites. Yes, they look exactly alike, right? So, all right. So with that, y'all survived my revenge. And now we're on to our final game with Brandi.
Yes.
Oh, no.
And so with this game, is 2 truths and a lie, and so I found some unlikely connections between early music and new music. And so you're going to see 3 different statements, and you have to pick the one that you think is the lie.
Well, they're not going to see the statements in full. They're going to see, because that's too much to put on a slide.
I see. Okay. So should I pull up my.
Yes, you should.
Not fair.
But you'll see my condensed reminders of what it was.
Excellent.
Oh, who was A.J. Cluth? Was that a?
I literally, when I found who I wanted to do, I just looked further DePaul people.
Okay.
So I did know about I think Mary, the one from the sound engineer, but
Sure.
I don't actually know AJ. Sorry. But he's a real person. So
And a music graduate or?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, they all got music degrees.
Okay.
Cool.
You ready, Brandi?
I'm ready.
All right.
All right. So here's the first series of questions based on Ligeti. Georgie, I don't even know how to say his first name correctly. Ligeti. So the first statement: Ligeti wrote a violin concerto that includes a passacaglia and, quote, references to medieval and Renaissance music. Second statement, he composed a chaconne for harpsichord entitled Hungarian Rock. Third statement, he founded the Cologne Academy of Early Music. Which one is which one is the lie? And now for a little thinking. Do we have thinking music?
Yeah.
A little thinking music.
We've heard this before.
Yeah, don't ask us to play anything else. This is all we know how to do.
My family has left the house at this point. So this is, I think, easy, which means it might be wrong, but I would say, I mean, I know B is correct. And when I remember the violin concerto, that makes sense.
We're both thinking C.
Yeah, although he was certainly a multifaceted person, especially in Cologne. In Cologne, he was active in the electronic studios and all of that. So I would say C is the lie for me.
C sounds great. I'm on board with those two.
Me too. C it is.
Excellent. See, it
Thank
is.
you, Brandi.
That was lie. Yes. Excellent. Great job, everybody. You got it correct.
And I think it's Georgie, but I'm not positive.
Georgie. Okay, good. Thank you. I'm like, I just claim, you know what?
That's
the
Bach.
Texas tongue cannot pronounce those things. You know, anytime umlauts appear in a word, I'm just like.
So that's Bach and Bartok together? Is that...
Oh, it's Bach and Beethoven.
Oh, Beethoven.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, I didn't introduce you guys.
Of course, Bach and Beethoven. Well, how stupid of me, yes.
Yeah, there's our BBE man right there. Yeah. All right, cool. So here's the second question here. This is about John Tavener.
Oh,
first statement, John Tavener's piece, The Funeral Canticle, was performed and recorded by the Period Instrument Orchestra, Academy of Ancient Music. Second statement, at age 17, he performed Beethoven's Fourth Piano Concerto on forte piano with the National Youth Orchestra. And then third statement, John Tavener thought of Arvo Pärt as a kindred spirit, quote. Pärt bromance, I love that. Which one is the lie? And now for a little thinking music.
I find this one to be a very difficult question. So, I mean, he wrote like Funeral Canticle sounds like something he might have written.
absolutely.
And
the commission sounds right, too.
And they have he has a very similar style to Arvo Pärt in terms of sort of this, like the sonority of these chords and silences and things like that. Not quite to the extent that Pärt does, but like I can see them having a bit of a bromance.
Yes.
The piano thing seems out of character, or it seems out of the whole compositional style, but I wouldn't put it past Brandi to find something obscure there and then make up the Pärt thing. So.
Right. But he's fairly old, so to speak. He's older than I am. So I didn't think forte piano would have been around when he was 17. Although because that wasn't really a thing, right? Until
that's a good point.
The 80s or the 90s, or am I
70s-ish?
70s-ish?
Yeah.
For you early music people. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I'm on board with you. Then I'm going with B.
I would go with B as well.
Excellent. Leighann, Amos?
I'm at a loss for this one. I'm not that familiar with his music.
He lives in Greece now, right? Doesn't he?
I don't know. That makes sense. He converted to Greek Orthodoxy, I think. Yeah,
to avoid the over-Anglican influence, he became a Greek Orthodox.
Yeah.
Because when he was young, he was tapped as being the next Benjamin Britten.
Okay.
So
that just seems like a funny reason to convert to something, but okay.
He had to just get out of there. He had to avoid that whole everything that was expected of him.
Gotcha.
I'm going to go with A.
With A? Okay.
I'm familiar with his name. I'm sure I've heard a lot of his work, but I'm not connecting the style with the name. So it's not to align with everybody. I'm going to try A.
All right. A for Amos. All right. Leighann, what do you think?
I'm going to go with B for Brandi.
Okay. Excellent. Well, if you chose B for Brandi, you were right. That is in fact a lie. So he didn't play on a well, I don't know at age 17 if he played on a forte piano, but I'm guessing probably not. But it was actually Shostakovich's second piano concerto that he performed.
That would fit
at the National
perfectly.
Youth
Yeah.
Orchestra. Yeah,
I didn't know he was that good a pianist. That's
Yeah, well, and then it says that he, there was a shift in his life where he kind of left that behind,
right.
and really pursued his composing.
Come on, Kurt. We were all that good of a pianist for at least one piece.
Right. Well, believe it or not, I actually played that piece in high school.
We all learned one piece at least.
That was one of my few. Yes. Well said, Amos. That's well said.
Yeah, but Kurt led the charge on that one, though. You pointed out the most obvious thing there, which worked really well. So thanks, Kurt. That was good. That was good.
Totally. Awesome.
You have to be good for something.
Excellent. And now on to the final question. You're almost through with your trivia torture here. Here is the third, and it's centered around Wanda Landowska.
Oh, yeah.
Polish harpsichordist. So, first statement, since she was I'll preface this, she was one of the leaders in bringing the harpsichord back into the mainstream in the 20th century. So, she was the first statement, she was the first to record Bach's Goldberg variations on the harpsichord in 1933 as a part of this movement. Second statement, Manuel de Falla wrote a harpsichord concerto for her. Third statement, she taught musicology at the Berlin Hochschule for Music from 1914 to 1919. And now some thinking music.
Sorry, what was your name again?
Wanda Landowska. This is Polish.
So did she study in Berlin?
So that's part of whether you have
That's
to
part of the question.
Yeah.
That's the C is the only one that doesn't quite fit for me.
That was what I was thinking.
Although I didn't know DeFaya ever wrote a harpsichord concerto, so that's interesting.
That's where I'm kind of stuck, because I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, but I don't know.
Right.
The DeFaya one's kind of I want to say C, but DeFaya kind of hits me as
I'd
odd.
be curious to hear it, that's for sure.
We may have to wait a long time if you didn't write one, Kurt.
That's true.
Excellent.
I think that B is too creative of a wrong answer for you.
For me, oh, ouch, Amos.
So I think that B is true.
Okay.
And you would think 33 is
Nothing against you. I just think it's too on point for some reason. So I'm going to go with C as being the wrong answer.
The one thing about C, though, is so she's Polish, right? And if she is from Poland, it would make sense that maybe she taught in Berlin for a while until the World War set in. Because you said it was until the late teens, early 20s. So we're talking World War I era.
It would have been during World War I.
So she might have tried to send screw this, I'm out. So it could. I don't know. I'm going to go for C. I feel weird about B, but I'm going to go for C, I think.
Okay.
That would be my choice as well.
Cool. And
I'm going to go with B for Brandi.
Sorry. I meant B. B. I think C might be right, and B is wrong. B is wrong.
okay. So Thomas and Leighann are B. Kurt, you're C. Amos, you are
C.
C. All right. Excellent. So, in fact, the lie is letter C.
Yes.
Yes. All right. So she did teach in Berlin at that school, but she taught harpsichord and she taught slightly different years. So
Very subtle. That's very subtle.
Yeah. But yeah, I was really so Manuel de Falla
Did you hear it?
harpsichord concerto, and he wrote another piece for her as well.
Have you ever heard the harpsichord concerto?
I have not. As soon as I saw that, I was like, man, I need to look that up. That's really cool.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
Yeah. I do one fun fact about her was apparently her and Pablo Casals met and had a disagreement about interpreting Bach.
Yes, I could see that.
Yeah. And so she told him, you play Bach how you're going to play it, and I'm going to play it like he would play it, or something like that.
What a great quote.
I thought that was a pretty funny thing. And then also I think this was Ligeti, who is actually the great grandnephew of Leopold Auer. There's another fun fact I found out about him.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. I was like, interesting.
Good to know.
Very interesting. So yeah, all these unlikely connections, which, for all you listening out there, I would have not gotten any of these right probably. So anyway.
Those are very good.
Yeah.
No, really. Thank you for doing all the research on that.
I don't ever want to go through this again, but those are...
Yeah. So anyway, at least we learned some things along the way, and then at the same time, I'm like, man, I'm so glad I never had finals over any of this stuff.
Right. Yeah. This is bringing back my comprehensive exams.
Exactly.
Actually, it is nice because doing this reminds me that we all have not in a bad way, like blind spots. Like there's just so much that you don't know, and then you realize that you know so little, and in a good way, right? So like I think that's really fascinating.
I had a composition teacher at Northwestern who had a photographic memory. So this is the kind of thing he lived for.
Oh, I'm sure.
And he would have all the answers right.
And could he tell you the page number and everything?
Yeah, he would go, this reminds me of the 20th measure of the Elliott double concerto. And
yeah.
At least it was just the 20th measure.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Well, awesome. Well, now we're to the point of our show where we do a little bit of chit chat, and so find out what you guys have been up to. We're kind of when we first started BBE Live, it was like, well, what would you be up to if there wasn't a pandemic? And now we're well past all of the things that could have been scheduled or have been canceled and postponed yet again. So yeah, let us know what I know, Kurt, you are retired but keeping busy with a lot of different things as things have been finding you, as you have said, for you to do. I know Amos is up to a bunch as well. And so, what have you guys, maybe we'll kick off with Kurt. What have you been up to? How have you been living the life?
Yeah, I feel lucky actually, because my entire family's been healthy, and also we've had gainful employment still. So I still direct music at St. Paul's Lutheran Church in Evanston. So since March, of course, that's been all recorded services, and also there's a Zoom service on Sunday morning, but the music is recorded. They share videos of pre-recorded music, since playing live over Zoom is a dangerous thing to do, or not always a successful thing to do. So it's all recorded in advance. So I organize all of that. We do it on a rather simple level. Of course, I have 3 wonderful vocal soloists, and I use them. We put the choir together twice, but the editing, for 10 voices, 10 different boxes was a little prohibitive. Well, it's a neat thing to do, but on a regular basis, I just use my 3 soloists and arrange music for them. I'm not writing much music on the side, but I actually am working on a series of pieces for mezzo-soprano and viola. Because I happen to know, obviously, a mezzo-soprano and a violist. So I've composed 3 out of 5 of those. Then I have a 16-year-old son who, tries to avoid me as much as possible, understandably. But I have family duties as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, like a true teenager, right?
Oh, exactly. He's a very good cellist.
Yeah.
Not that I had anything to do with it, but he's actually relatively serious and accomplished cellist at this point.
Wow, that's awesome.
And he even does well in school. So something's going to go wrong soon. But.
Even better.
Excellent. Cool. What have you been up to, Amos?
So I've been working on preparing like a jazz show, kind of like a chamber jazz work that would kind of feature me in a more concentrated performance setting. It's called Unstructured Time for obvious reasons, based on the pandemic and having a kind of a crazy world that's going on outside of us, and then trying to contend with being creative and make the most out of your own unstructured time. And so it's two saxophonists, drums, bass, piano, guitar, and a singer. And it's been in the works for over a year. And I'm working on trying to set it up as a live stream. Just got all, pulling all my instrumentalists together, and the music's mostly written. So that's where I'm at with my largest project. Hoping to premiere it probably in April. And then I've got one other live stream that I'm going to do next week with the Lakeshore Rush Ensemble, where I'm going to premiere a new saxophone solo. Hopefully. I actually I visited my family in Phoenix, Arizona over the holiday and got COVID.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how did that go? How was that?
It's been rough. I got it from my mother.
Whoa.
So me and my mom and my dad were quarantined and dealing with it in the house, and we're doing better. But for me and my dad, it was pretty rough, and we were in and out of the hospital, and
Oh, jeez.
It's taken a bit of a toll on my lungs. So that's why I'm saying hopefully I'm going to be okay playing saxophone next week. I just have to sort of evaluate, where I'm at here, because I have asthma. My dad's 65. So we both were in the same place in terms of the seriousness of it. But there wouldn't be any better place to get it and to have to deal with it than to have your mom and dad there to help you.
Right.
Good.
True.
But all in all, I wish none of us got it, but Phoenix is very much a hot spot right now. So it's just like everybody was getting it. It was not great, but you do what you can. And it's good to know in a COVID world what it does with my chemistry, and it's something I can never get again. So on the bright side, I've been getting good rest lately. It's 3 weeks after the fact, and I'm feeling quite good. Although I've been sitting here for 3 hours and I've been eating, so I apologize for that. I need to sort of replenish my energy, because it does kill your energy, and those symptoms sort of linger for a while.
But you have appetite, obviously.
Yeah, I didn't get the loss of taste and smell. I didn't get that. I didn't get some of the other symptoms. I mean, actually, the loss and taste of the smell is the only symptom I didn't get. I got everything else. It was the low energy, the sleeplessness, and it's tough. It's important to stay vigilant and watch out for that thing.
Yeah. Thanks for letting us know.
Yeah. Okay, so if you or anyone else is dealing with it or has family that's dealing with it and you need to talk, I've got a wealth of knowledge on how to deal with it, how to get through it at home. The doctors actually prescribe zinc, like a real high dosage of zinc to boost your immune system. And
Okay.
I'm still on that. All the other drugs I'm off of now. Steroids and
Wow.
antibiotics.
Ooh, steroids. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Donald Trump, yeah.
So that's my life. I'm happy. I'm happy to be here with you.
You look happy.
To be on the other side of that shit show that I was dealing with.
Yeah.
And talking about music with you, and being able to get back to writing music and teaching my students, and grateful for everything that I have.
Yeah. Have you, so a question to both of you guys, like as far as the pandemic, because in a lot of ways, because we've, a lot of us have been forced into like remote working, right, and being at home, and in a lot of ways, it's kind of cleared the mechanism as far as like, the amount, we're all not doing nearly the amount we were doing, pre-COVID, right, and so do you feel like that has, like, what do you feel like that's done for your creativity, like as far as writing goes? Like, do you need to be around a lot happening, to spur on ideas, or do you find like this quiet time, like where you've been at home a little bit more, has actually been better for your creativity? Or like, I'm just curious how that,
For me, because I was really trying to take the year to focus on creative jazz projects, not being able to go out to jam sessions, not being able to play with the bands that I play with, was hampering my ability to make it work, because you get so much energy from other people, and just creative energy and performance energy and all of that really kind of incubates with your performer colleagues, and I was missing that personally.
What do you think, Kurt?
Well, I'm not writing as much as I would have been, say, 3 or 4 years ago. So I'm not necessarily concentrating on new music. So actually, it's been a nice time to reflect and write some other kinds of music.
Yeah.
And we were fortunate enough to inherit a small ranch house in Michigan on the bluffs near St. Joseph.
Nice. Wow.
But it's on the bluffs, so, looking down at the lake.
Yeah.
So I've been able to go there a few times, and I can only take it for a couple days, but the silence is incredible.
Yeah.
And so being alone like that, I find to be really productive for a couple of days, and then I need to do something else, see people. But it has been, we're not through this yet, so it's very difficult to reflect on the COVID experience itself, and also all the other things that have affected the world and our country. So it should be really interesting to see what kind of music comes out of all of this in the future, because there's so much to reflect on. I went to high school and college, I graduated high school in '68. I thought there would never be a year that would equal the cataclysms of 1968. Martin Luther King was assassinated. Robert Kennedy was assassinated. There were revolutions in Paris. There was the Russian takeover in Czechoslovakia. All of that happening. Then there were summer riots in the United States at the Democratic Convention, Chicago, where there were vicious confrontations between Chicago police and student protesters. So that to me was like the peak of any of that. And the last few years have topped all of that. I mean, last week has topped all of that. But so there's so much to think about and reflect on. It'll be very interesting to see what comes out of this. I wish I were younger in a way.
Well, hopefully what you're projecting is correct, and we go through a period of artistic and political prosperity, because we don't want to revisit what we just saw.
Yes.
Because I know that after the Spanish flu, it was just we went to a dark phase, like a dark period in history where people just didn't really write about it or reflect on it because it was so terrible. But they were just eager to get past it.
Past it, yeah.
Mm.
So I would,
the Roaring Twenties was,
and there was the Roaring Twenties. So hopefully
around time.
we can just have, I mean, knock on wood, we can have a good next decade.
Yeah, sure hope so.
Yeah, it's interesting that because I've heard that comparison too, with the Spanish flu and leading into the Roaring Twenties, and that kind of, and I do think that too, that people will be so hungry for, getting out of their houses and going to events and stuff and social events like that. So yeah, it'll be interesting, and I'm kind of wondering like what new genre of music might emerge. Like if the 20s were kind of the embarking of swing, then.
Oh well, I'll be the first one to go back to swing dancing.
Yeah, my husband too. He's right there with you, and he's like, "You should learn." So between us, I took like a bunch of salsa and like a tiny, little bit of flamenco, and so I'm like, "Okay, well, I'll learn." Some swing, if you'll learn some salsa, and then we can meet in the middle here, I mean, I can follow along, but I just can't, do the swing steps like correctly. I haven't had formal training or anything. But yeah, I would be, that is a pretty fun social dance, it looks like. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Parties sound so good right now.
I know.
Yeah.
Traveling abroad sounds so good right now.
Yeah.
Dancing sounds wonderful.
Yeah, definitely. Thomas, you can have your raves again.
I already have them. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we had my son had a Halloween party outside our house on Halloween night with 3 fellow young musicians. And their parents came to pick them up. They were outside, and I had a small fire pit, and but they had to stay outside was the idea. And there were just 4, so it was working out pretty well. But their parents came to pick them up, and all came into the backyard. And Halloween night was not cold, but it wasn't warm either. It was like in the low 40s, or 30s even. All the parents stood outside for an hour and talked to each other because they hadn't been able to do that.
Yeah,
to talk live to people like that. It was amazing to see, and we didn't even know these people. We'd all never met before. Some knew each other, but it was amazing to see how badly the parents needed to just talk, as well as the kids. And my son has been on hybrid, he's been on remote learning since April.
Wow.
And he does well with it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool. He doesn't have to, get up and go anywhere. But the last week he said he's ready. He can't stand it. He's really ready to do something else.
Yeah.
And Skokie Niles North might start hybrid learning in the spring, where they might be there for 2 days a week or something. And we talked it over with him, and he really wants to do it. He's had enough of remote learning. So that's really getting to people at this point.
Yeah, definitely.
It didn't before.
Yeah. Sure. Cool. Well, so we have this Chicago Stories release coming up. That's coming up for anybody who's watching a week from tomorrow. And so works on the album, of course, they're featuring both, Amos and Kurtz. And then there's 3 other composers' works that are also being featured on there. So you have to tune in as well. But any other Thomas and Ann, and any other thoughts or signing off? We've been going about an hour now, which is usually.
Yeah, we should probably sign off, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So anything we should know about next week?
Well, so we'll be meeting here on StreamYard, and so anybody out there, come to our YouTube channel, you'll find us. tomorrow. A week from tomorrow, January 23rd at 7:30 p.m. And we'll have a whole like fleshed out show for you guys. You'll hear, a preview of the album, snippets of each of the works of the composers. Have some games and some chatting and all that good stuff. And so yeah, make sure to tune in. And then of course, yeah. Anything else you guys want to say?
It's great to talk with you guys.
Yeah.
Great to talk to you guys.
Thanks for Amos for joining us today.
Thank you for letting me join.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always great to catch up.
And we'll look forward to asking specific questions maybe next week about your pieces and compositional styles. And I think that'll be really interesting. So
For sure.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks everybody for a great show. And thanks to Amos and to Kurt for joining us. We'll be back next Friday with a show / next Saturday. Are both those things true? I can't remember.
For sure, next Saturday.
Okay, very good. All right, excellent. So we will see everybody next week and look forward to the big album reveal. So with that, see you at the next BBE Live. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Stay safe.